Every week.
Coming in dancing. That's all we
Every
do.
week. I got to do it. I got it. And every week I hurt my neck. Every
That's
week.
right. Hello, everybody. How are y'all doing tonight? You doing all right, Andy?
I was until I started dancing and I jacked my neck
true.
up. But
We were doing
yeah.
better too till we saw you dancing. Hey, look, I'm pretty excited about this. Matthew, I've been asking you since I decided to bring back the wellness community podcast to come on to the show. And so I'm glad you're here. This is going to be a really good one if you're watching. We've been friends for a number of years now, right? So yeah, many years. So first, just introduce yourself. Who are you? It's going to get confusing. We got Matthew and all that. So we're going to,
like we said,
I'll be Matt tonight and you'll be Matthew.
Because I prefer Matthew actually. So I'm Matthew Seaman. I am somebody who's in long-term recovery, and I think I'm here to just kind of maybe dish out a little hope, and that's it.
That's it. Yeah.
Well, all right, ladies and gentlemen, we will see you next week. Thanks for tuning in.
What do you want to know?
Yeah. Now, okay. So let's just talk. So we met a couple years ago. We met through Patty Muller. If everybody remembers from watching, Patty Muller was on.
Love Patty.
One of the first wellness podcasts, and so you were friends with her when you were living in Jacksonville, and
she was one of my therapists in one of the times I went to treatment.
Yeah, we're going to get to Patty Muller. We're going to bring Patty up, right?
I think she was.
Yeah, I think she was too, because that's how she ended up referring. But then y'all kept a relationship going after that.
Right.
And then, now you're in San Diego. So you moved to San Diego a year ago today. How cool is that?
It's very cool.
Yeah.
I love it here. Nobody told me that it was like disgusting weather in February out here.
Yeah.
When I got here last year, it was hailing and raining and cold, and I was like, "Y'all lied to me."
It's supposed to be sunny, and
then they were like, "Oh, it's a fluke," and now here we are in February, and it's pouring down rain. And
exactly.
I guess it's just February in San Diego.
So one of the reasons why I'm excited to have you on, one, you've been a big help to me, and we're going to get to that as we talk to the show, things that you've done and helped me and my family through some personal stuff that we've gone through. But it's your story. It's how you got to where you are today that we're going to first go through, and then we're going to talk about how you made a promise. And that promise has kept you on a career path where you're working in the field of recovery.
Sobriety path.
Yeah.
They go hand in hand. Yeah.
So let's go way back, Matthew.
Oh, no. You said we weren't going to do that.
Yeah. Well, we at least need to give this synopsis
I'm just kidding, man.
What led you down the path. And how it really got, you got to a point. You were there. You were standing on the doorstep at one point.
More than one point, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I often think about like, when did everything go off the rails? Because I was 15 years old when I started doing meth. So it seems a little early for your life to fall apart, for you to turn to drugs, when you're in junior high, or high school. I don't even know. But the thing is, my child was, I think a lot of it had to do with, we moved from a small town to a much larger, there was like a culture shock situation that happened when I was about 13 years old, which was right around the time that I was sort of realizing that I was gay at the same, so at 13, 14 years old, that's a lot. My parents were having a moment in their relationship. We had just moved, and I was realizing I was gay right in the middle of the HIV crisis. So
scary time for sure.
It was. And I was having, being that age is tough enough, I guess. Not that I know what it's like for a normal kid, but for all the things that I was going through, it was just layer upon layer. And I just happened to, they always say, you are who you hang around with. And there was one group who was said, come on in. And I had to find new friends, and the new friends were the ones that were going to the club at 16 years old and doing drugs and dyeing their hair and piercing their ears. And, it was that whole club kid era, I guess. Yeah. And I just fell right into it and didn't stop till I was 45. So it was a long time to be high. I was high for 30 years.
Yeah.
I was low for 30 years too. But I mean, intoxicated or under the influence for 3 decades.
Yeah. So you got into meth at 15. What
Yeah.
else?
You know what's funny? The guy that gave me my first line of crystal methamphetamines is now my hairstylist.
No kidding. Really? Do y'all talk about like the past? Do y'all talk about those days?
We reconnected when I got back. I mean, we stayed in touch just on Facebook and stuff, you know. Actually, a lot of the people, well, I guess coming back to San Diego, this is where it was all going down when I was 15 years old, you know. So they all got clean and sober way before I did.
Before you.
Yeah. So it's just sort of a full circle moment when I'm sitting in his chair getting my hair cut, talking about, you know, 1985.
You don't call them the good old days, do you? Or no.
He actually did when I was still in Florida. I hadn't seen him in, you know, 100 years. But during COVID, he actually, you know, all the barbershops and hair salons and all were closed. And I actually my mom went and got her hair done by him.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. And she was telling her all the stories that I had left out, which
So I have a serious question for you. Was meth the first drug that you ever tried?
No. So I remember when my parents would have parties, because my parents were, they might watch this, so let me be careful. Well, it was the 70s.
Yeah.
We'll say that. You know, my dad had served in Vietnam and was very, I guess a lot of the people a lot of the service people came back a little rebellious.
Yeah.
You know, so he very quickly grew like a Grizzly Adams beard and bought a couple of Harleys, and we were growing pot plants on the side of the house. So
the devil's lettuce.
Yeah, the devil's, which now I guess I could go across the street and get it. But
yeah.
So there was, you know, it was pot smoking, motorcycle riding, 1970s hippie parents, you know, and I remember they used to have parties out in the, you know, and I would go around drinking all the little bits of the Budweiser that was left, all the warm beer in the bottom of the cans. And then my mom had a friend whose son was a little bit older than I was, and he would make pipes out of toilet paper rolls with the foil.
Yeah.
And we would pick the weed and smoke the weed.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I know. This is an educational session, I guess, for some people. But anyway, I had dabbled, you know, in my single digits. But meth obviously was a whole different ball game.
Yeah.
Did you know from that first hit were you hooked?
Oh God, it was done. It was not. I was like, well, this is where the rest of my life goes. You know, it was definitely not a recreational situation.
Yeah. Yeah. Use it and then put it down for a year or two and pick it up.
I'm not trying to.
Anybody ever has just tried it once.
Yeah, that's kind of why I bring it up. I'm not trying to pry or anything like that, but you know, that seems to be that particular drug is just so dangerous.
Well, I say it has claws, it has talons, and this disease has talons, I guess.
Yeah,
and once they sink in, you know, getting clean and sober was the hardest thing I've ever done.
Yeah.
You know, staying alive was hard. But getting clean and sober was.
Let me take my hat off to you, sir, because I know how hard it is. I quit drinking. You know, I was an alcoholic.
Yeah.
And I quit. And that was very hard to do. I know that doesn't compare really to your situation.
It does, because I drank for 20 years. Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to get there.
Yeah, I don't want to get
No, but the point is, Andy, I mean, the point is that, you know, what we're talking about here is addiction, right?
Right.
Addiction holistically. And I think, you know, if you have not gone through addiction, you know somebody who has, or you have somebody in your family that has gone through that addiction, whether it be drug addiction, alcohol addiction, or you name it. We can go on with the list, but addiction,
alcohol was hard. It was harder to get off of alcohol than meth, if I'm being totally honest. So you know, it's.
Well, you know, if I ask a question, why do you think that was? You know,
I don't know. 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 I don't I really never thought about it.
Because it's so socially normalized. It's everywhere you go.
But
Every
see,
restaurant.
I don't even think that that's really. I don't even think that that's well, not for me anyway. And let's just preface this whole conversation with the fact that I'm not speaking for all alcoholics and addicts, and my recovery could look very different than everybody's. So I just want to say that in advance because sometimes I get off on these tangents. But for whatever reason, well, I don't want to spoil the story though. But I'll just say that the alcohol you're right though. Just being able to stop at a liquor store on the way home or a bar on the way home from work and not have to chase a drug dealer around town was a little more convenient.
Yeah.
Well, we can table that and come back to it.
Yeah, we'll table it and get back to it. Let's progress through. So we're using meth.
We're using meth, just going between San Diego and Los Angeles, 16, 17 years old, going to clubs, partying all night, started partying more than I was going to school. Obviously the family was a little concerned.
Yeah.
It was such a whirlwind. Because I wasn't just an addict. I was this gay teenager who was just experiencing all of these like new things all at one time, and it was wild. It was absolutely wild. The mid 80s on drugs at the club was insane. So
it seems like a movie. Like
it was a little bit like Less Than Zero.
Yeah.
But that went on for a while, and it was not great. There was a lot of, I participated in probably some less than safe things. Sorry, I got a new puppy.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
He does not like being behind the baby gate.
Yeah.
What kind of dog?
He's a Frenchie.
Oh,
that's cool.
It's what gay people have to get. We have to get Frenchies for some reason.
All right. So I have to do this. I can't hold it anymore. What does a gay horse eat?
Hey.
All right, I've got it out of my system.
Yeah.
So anyway, school wrapped up. It's great. Made it by the skin of my teeth. Whatever. Moved out, ran away, home. Whatever. Left home, and was kind of couch surfing for a while. There was like these houses or apartments where all of us kids would just kind of go. And like one kid was always that entitled guy that had parents who paid for stuff. And so we would all just kind of, like a flop house kind of thing, not that any of us were sleeping. So we really didn't need any beds or anything, as long as there was like Scrabble and Boggle and coloring books, we were good. But I ended up meeting this lady. We had the same drug dealer. And she lived with her husband and her 9-year-old son, 8 or 9-year-old son. And the husband would go away for long periods of time for work. And so I ended up staying with her a lot and she ended up divorcing her husband and I married her. We're just going to jump right.
Yeah.
Right
Go on.
Yeah.
This was all part of the meth thing. And, we stayed married for like 7 years.
Yeah.
And she's the reason I ended up in Florida.
Okay.
And this all goes back to the thing with why was alcohol harder than meth. But we were married for a while. San Diego started getting really scary. Our drug dealers were getting killed. Our friends were getting killed. People were dying. It was getting a little scary. So we decided that her parents lived in Jacksonville, Florida. And we decided we were going to pack up the Hyundai XL in the middle of the summer with no air conditioning and no registration on the car and no licenses. And I went in the middle of the night with a razor blade and scraped somebody's sticker off their license plate and super glued it to my car. We decided to stick the last 8-ball of meth someplace you don't want to know, and got in the car and started driving across the country and ran out of dope in Yuma, Arizona, which, if you know,
y'all didn't make it very far.
I was just going to say, geographically, that's like a drop in the bucket for that drive.
That's a couple of hours,
Yeah, so she slept the rest of the way, and I drove and just ate no-dos and just kept driving. And that's how I got to Jacksonville. But that was the last time I ever did meth, was in Yuma, Arizona.
No kidding.
Yeah. But within 4 hours of getting to Jacksonville, I was at the liquor store drinking whiskey and chasing it with milk. So San Diego and meth were not the problem. Apparently, it was me.
Yeah. So
and
you
I didn't stop drinking for 20 more years.
Yeah. So you stopped using meth. Do you think it was access, or do you think you just had enough, or do you think you just said, okay, I'm done with that. This is, and rolled on?
I don't think access was the issue. If you're an
Yeah.
addict, you can find it.
Yeah, you can find it.
Yeah. I really just think I was ready to move on to the next addictive substance.
Yeah.
10 years on meth. I mean, that's a good run.
Now, did she stop using meth?
She did. She became a total pothead.
Okay.
She never drank, not once.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Matthew, which was great, because I got all the whiskey was mine.
Yeah.
I'm very curious. What did meth do to you physically?
I was very thin.
Yeah.
Very thin. Extremely thin. And my teeth rotted.
Yeah.
And I can put my pinky through the middle and come out the other side of my nose, because there's a hole burned into that middle part.
Okay. Well, you got that going for you.
And then, you can't see, but like this whole side of my nose is caved in.
Okay.
But that's really it physically.
Yeah.
Pretty lucky.
Yeah.
Horrible.
Yeah.
Horrible things that have happened, but you're pretty damn lucky.
Oh, yeah.
You're lucky to be alive.
Well, just wait. We're rolling. This story's amazing. It really is. Yeah. It really is. And it is. It's again, thank goodness we're sitting here interviewing you today, because obviously the trials and tribulation things you went through, to get here is just it's a movie.
That was the fun part.
Yeah.
Those were the fun years.
Oh, sure.
Exactly.
Sure.
Now it all goes downhill from here.
Yeah. Well, let's go downhill. Let's tell everybody the story of
all right.
Where do we go from here?
So let's see. I married my wife in 1995, right when we left, and we stayed married for about 7 years. And then she's like, Matthew, we can't pretend you're not gay anymore. We really can't. And so I moved out and got my own place. And lived by myself for about a year. Now, this was back when they had, this was before like cell phones were really even a thing.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Lifetime ago. So they had this thing for gay guys where this is how you dated. Okay. This was before Grindr and Bumble or whatever they are. Where you would call and you would create like a voicemail account. It was called Megaphone. Mm. And other people could call in and like listen to you. And if they liked you, they would leave you a message in your inbox. And it was like $7 a month. And it was just like, it was
calling and messaging.
God, it sounds like dinosaur days, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So I was doing that and I met this guy. Now I lived by myself for about a year. That's when I got stabbed and stuff. Do you want to cover that?
Yeah. I've forgotten about that till you said it. This is, you got to tell that.
While I was living alone, up until that point, I was always, even though I was a hot mess, there was always like a partner in crime or a caretaker, even if they were hot. I had never really been like alone. So I had this little apartment, and a girlfriend of mine, was in an abusive relationship, and she had come over because her and her boyfriend had gotten in a fight, and he came knocking on the door. So I told her to lock herself in my bedroom at the time, and went and answered the door thinking, I'm just going to say she's not here. And as soon as I opened the door, he stabbed me 9 times in the chest and abdomen.
Jesus.
You remember those steel scissors?
Yeah.
That the teachers always had. They were like this long, and they were solid, like stainless steel.
Oh yeah, the big ones. Yeah.
That's what he stabbed me with.
No kidding.
And left me for dead in the doorstep. And then went and carved fag into the trunk of my Buick. So big on the trunk that you could see it. You know how like police cars have that number on the roof that helicopters can see?
Yeah.
It was literally that big. The whole trunk of my car. It just said fag.
So
yeah, I hope they caught him and threw him in jail.
I got to tell you, for folks that are listening that may not think that's
people are listening.
Serious.
You
Well,
didn't.
I got to pay him. So like one person. But anyway, I've treated victims with stab wounds from scissors before, and that's a scary wound to treat because some of those wounds are small and you can miss them, and especially if you've been stabbed multiple times. That's
Yeah.
wow, dude. Holy smokes.
Yeah. You can't see. I have a scar down my face too.
Wow.
That's crazy. Yeah.
It is. But you know what? Like my whole life was insane at the time. So it was just another Tuesday. I know that sounds weird, but it wasn't until I was sober, probably 3 or 4 years, when that compartment opened.
Yeah. Yeah. That
Yeah.
trauma
And
came
I'll go
out.
to film now. It's so weird that when I think about it, it immediately
Yeah. It's like a
starts
trigger.
to cry. Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
But it didn't affect me until many, many years later.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Cause you were still in the midst of addiction and drinking and recovery and,
Denial. A lot of denial, I'm
denial.
sure.
Yeah. Denial and all that. Yeah. So, wow. Did they put him in jail? Did they get caught?
So they found him in Michigan, and they were talking about extraditing him back to Florida to face charges. And then the detective told me that they weren't going to pursue that.
Really?
Why? Because you're gay?
He
Honestly,
said,
I don't mean that to be funny, but you know how the world is.
I do. Firsthand.
Yeah.
I cannot believe that. Holy crap. That's crazy. That is just wrong.
Yeah.
And that's blatant. I mean, dude came in your house, stabbed you, and went out to the car. Yeah, that's amazing.
It was a full-blown hate crime.
I hate that
full
for
blown.
you, man.
Yeah.
I
Full
really
blown.
do.
And he didn't try to come in and go to her. He just stopped at you.
No.
I can't even imagine how you feel because I'm super angry right now just hearing that.
Yeah. That's crazy.
It's just a piece of a puzzle that is just, I mean, it was a very, very, nothing was normal.
Yeah.
Nothing had ever been normal, so it's just.
You know what, though? The cool part about that, though, is that's just part of what makes you you.
Yeah.
Well, and all of this does. And when we as we
Yeah.
go through here, because I'll get back to that, because it would be very easy for me to sit here and feel sorry for myself that I wasted 30 years of my life doing drugs and alcohol. But now, in hindsight, it's everything that I went through is so valuable.
Well, we talk about that in Convene, right? We all have a story. We all have something that we've gone through. And again, as you continue to hear your story, like Andy said, I applaud you because you're going to see here as the story continues to unfold. You took that diversity, all the things you went through, and you've turned it into an amazing thing that you work on and do now. Yeah. So let's continue, everyone.
So, yeah, we just had to get the stabbing out of the way. So
yeah, we had to get the stabbing out of the way because that's just
the dating voicemail box.
Yeah.
So I met this guy, Michael, and he had money and credit and all of that, and he proposed to me on Halloween. Now, this was before you could really get married, but it was still a diamond ring and all that. And so I moved in with him, and we were together for 10 years, and he was basically my caretaker / enabler / hostage for a decade while I drank and, got DUIs and went to treatment 15 times and got locked up on what I don't know what you call them out there, Baker's Act.
Yeah, Baker's Act. Yeah.
Yep.
Out here it's a 5150, did 3 times of that.
Wait a minute, you went to jail with Van Halen? I'm kidding. 5150. It's an album. Never mind.
Yeah.
Like I listened to Van Halen.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just shut up.
But yeah, I mean, he tried to fix me while at the same time enabled me for that entire 10 years. And, he had aged out of the foster care system when he was young. Both of his parents had passed away, so when I sort of shared my family with him, like we would come out to San Diego and visit, and they sort of everybody got really close. I mean, it was a 10-year relationship.
Yeah.
And it was the closest thing to normal. I mean, the guy had a mortgage, and we had a pool and we gardened and did stuff that normal people do. I just don't remember any of it because I was loaded the whole time. We went on 6 cruises. I've been on cruise ships to every island in the Eastern Caribbean.
No kidding.
And I don't remember any of it.
Wow.
One of them with my mom and dad and sister and my sister's husband.
Wow.
They talk about it here now. And I'm like,
no pictures, no nothing.
I can look at pictures, but I don't remember.
You don't remember it at all.
Totally relate.
Pictures of me like on a catamaran, like the sunset catamaran in Barbados. And I'm just like, no clue. I remember the captain's punch was delicious.
Yeah.
Which is sad, but I mean, that was the kind of life I was living at the time.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question about drinking. I mean, and we'll keep talking about this, but were you like 24/7, 365? Will you wake up in the morning, first thing you did, you start going?
Well, and that goes back to the question about why it was harder to get off of alcohol than meth. The dependency, the physical dependency on the alcohol was much. I mean, meth is great. And there's a whole jonesing thing and you got to get more and all of that. But it's not like a biological dependence, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense.
Physical, whereas alcohol, you can't stop or you're going to seize.
You're going to get the deep. Yeah, you're going to. It's going to get ugly.
Yeah. So yeah, I forgot the question already.
Okay, so you're with him 10 years.
10
you remember
years.
Little of it?
I remember. Well, I remember.
Yeah, a lot of it, but
a lot of that. It's just, anytime we were doing something that was supposed to be fun, I was, my idea was fun was very different than everybody else's. But since I had been in Florida, I had kept a job at Merrill Lynch this whole time. And I don't know, I know we didn't say anything about this, but I don't know how I managed to do it. But in 1995, when we moved to Jacksonville, the ex-wife and I got a temp job at Merrill Lynch in the customer service department. And I kept that job for 17 years.
Functional drunk.
That's insane to me.
Yeah.
But in 2013, I got out of treatment one of the last times, close to the last, maybe the 12th or 13th time I was in treatment. And came home on a Saturday, told Michael I was leaving him. I couldn't do it anymore. I think subconsciously I knew that if I didn't leave him, I would never get sober.
Yeah.
I mean, looking back now, I think that's why I did that. And then Monday morning went into Merrill Lynch and threw my badge at my supervisor and said that I was leaving. And then I went and cashed out my 401k, which was almost $70,000. And I paid a whole year up front on a little furnished apartment in one of the little areas of Jacksonville, and drank and smoked pot and did cocaine for 14 months.
Yeah.
And that's when it got really nasty.
That's when it went downhill.
That was the beginning of the end. That was me unleashed. You know what I mean? That was the disease unleashed. That was me. It was horrifying. It was horrifying. My car blew up. I had no job. I was just blowing through that money. Everybody was trying to save me and I just wouldn't answer the calls or the door, and drank myself to the point where I had gout in both feet. And you've heard this, Matt.
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Gout in both feet so bad that I couldn't walk. My feet were just, I don't know, not to be gross, not like a foot fetish thing, but I don't know if I ever showed you that picture, but my feet were purple footballs.
Yeah. And
the weight of a sheet was excruciating. That's how painful it was. So I was sitting in a chair with a cooler full of beer that the cashier at the liquor store brought me my beer. She had my debit card on file. And after work, she would bring me 2 12-packs of Yingling and bring it in and put it in the fridge and load up my cooler and put the ice in and everything. And then she'd go home.
So you go back to Michael, and then enabling. It's so easy to be an enabler.
Yeah. And I'm telling you, alcoholics and addicts, we know how to find a hostage. I mean, that whole thing about manipulation and all of that is it's true. It's almost like it's a very highly skilled situation. I mean,
It is a skill.
You got to get good at that. But
Yeah,
anyway, I got really good at it. And so, yeah, I had my cooler full of beer. I had a trash can. I'm sitting here like I can close my eyes and visualize where everything was. I had a carton of cigarettes, an ashtray, and a ragu, like one of the big ragu spaghetti sauce jars that I was peeing in because I couldn't go to the bathroom. And I would just sit there and chain smoke and drink. And there was nicotine dripping. Look at me looking like I can see the walls dripping down the walls because I was just sitting in there smoking. And that was what Bentley. Sorry.
Yeah.
No need to apologize.
But that was the day that it came to the point where that one day where I tried to go to the bathroom because the gout had subsided enough in one foot that I thought I could hobble down the hallway. And I fell on the floor in the living room. Excuse me. And ended up on my hands and knees. And I couldn't get up. And I was just in tears for like 3 hours. And finally, out loud, I just said, please, God, and I remember I said it out loud and I was the only one there. And I said, God, please just kill me or cure me because I can't do this anymore. And here's where I cry all the time.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. I mean, I'm being honest.
But I've told this story
me
1,000 times. I don't know why it does this.
It's because it's part of your story. It's part of who you are. And this is the moment, right? And it tears me up to hear it when you say it. It does.
All right. But I said, please just kill me or cure me because I can't do this anymore. And if you help me, I promise I'll help people just like me for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And I never drank again.
Powerful.
It's incredible.
I got goosebumps.
I do too. I mean, Matthew, that moment when you talked to me and you told me about that story, like every time I hear it, like he just said, I get goosebumps and it brings emotion to me too.
Every time I hear it, I cry and it was me.
Yeah. But it's an amazing story. And you said to me one time, the people who come out of it, the majority of people that you know that come out of it have that moment.
They have some kind of a profound spiritual experience. And whatever that looks like, it's always profound and it's always life-changing and it always sticks. You know, people talk about their bottoms. You know, the bottom should have been the DUI. You know, the bottom should have been the stabbing. The bottom should have been the overdoses. The bottom should have been the psychiatric holds or all of that. But I'm telling you that moment, obviously, still, it's the stabbing and that moment are the two that I think no matter how many times I tell those stories, I guess I'll just give in to the fact that I'll probably cry every time I tell them for the rest of my life because they're just pivotal moments, you know?
Well, there's nothing wrong with that.
No, I know, but you just...
It shows... Go ahead, Matt.
It shows that it's real. I mean, it was, you know, it was a powerful moment. And it's the thing that we've talked about this before, Matt, is that, you know, as a middle-aged gay guy, I certainly wasn't... There was no certainty that God was going to hear me. You know, I had never knocked on that door before. I had spent my whole life with people telling me that there was no reason to knock on that door, but it was just sort of a Hail Mary at that point because I knew that day I was either going to die or get better. And he answered the door. And I'm telling you, after that, I called my friend because I couldn't get up. And I said, I need to go to detox. And she took me to detox. And for the 6th time at Wakaiva, that's the name of the place.
Yeah.
And I was there for about a week. They just stabilized me. And then I moved into a faith-based men's sober living program. And there were 22 guys. I was 45 and an alcoholic, and everybody else was like 22 on heroin. So,
Wow.
and it was faith-based because, just what I was looking for. And that was probably, I could not be more grateful for that whole experience. I stayed there for 18 months because I was so scared I was going to drink again. But when I moved into that place, I had no money. I was wearing borrowed clothes. I was eating donated food from Trader Joe's because it was expiring that day, so a lot of wilted lettuce and, frozen expired filet mignon. And people were donating cigarettes. It was just, I was literally on food stamps. I had nothing. So it was a bottom for sure.
Yeah, that's the bottom. And you think about that, like, I sit
But
there
I
and
was so
look.
happy because I didn't have a beer in my hand.
Yeah, yeah.
It was
Well, you
weird.
think about that, you're on your knees, you can't get up, you're on the floor, you're crying for 3 hours because you can't get up. I mean, that is,
And you want to die.
and you want to die. You're
Right.
you're saying, God, take me, take me.
Or
I
fix
mean,
it.
or fix me.
The purgatory has been going on for
Yeah,
way too long.
yeah. Take me or fix me. You know.
Yeah.
But I do believe that God looked at you and He sees what's in your heart and where you could go and the impact that you can make and that your story can make.
And what's crazy is when I was exactly 60 days sober, uh, I was sleeping on the top bunk in a room with, multiple sets of bunk beds, which is great when you're in your 40s climbing up to a top bunk, but, and it was 5:24 in the morning on a Sunday when we didn't have to get up early and make our beds. And I kept hearing this voice it just kept saying, it was like 4 blocks from the beach, this house that we were in. And it just kept saying, go to the beach, go to the beach, go to the beach. A voice like I hear yours.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, it's pouring down rain outside. It's 5 something in the morning. I don't have to get up today. I was almost answering it, but it wouldn't stop. And so finally I just got up and put my flip flops on and walked in the dark in my soccer shorts to the beach and sat on a wet sand dune in the rain and watched the sun come up and met God that morning. And I talk about that because that moment was another pivotal moment for me, because to this day, in fact, it happened this morning, where I start to feel like life is getting a little too much. There's too many, I don't know if I can do this. And I have, ever since that morning, I felt like something had my back.
Yeah.
And I wake up with that feeling every single day.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. Look, that's the sun. It's still on my phone. You know how many phones I've had since that day? I don't think you
Wow.
can see it, but
That's the actual picture?
that's the picture I took that morning.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Matthew, you need to write a book, and that needs to be the cover of your book. You
Well,
have to write a book. I mean, you really do. And that has to be the cover.
Dude, I would be
That's
so
like
willing.
inspiring.
I'd be so willing to help you with that too.
Yeah. I didn't know you had that picture. You never showed me the picture before.
Oh yeah, and it goes from one phone to, every time I get a new phone, it's that picture because it reminds me that something or someone has my back. Excuse me, I'm sorry that I'm
That's okay.
joking here, but
You need some Fresca.
I say that because being in that faith-based program, on Sundays we did have to go to church.
Yeah.
And you didn't have to, and because I was in my first 60 days, they never forced me to go. But that particular morning I went. And it was interesting because I walked in there, I had all my own feelings about church. I was like, why am I going in here? So I can just, I'm setting myself up, for whatever. And, I have nothing in common with these people. I don't want to be preached at. That morning I went, and as we were getting off, we had an old school bus. As we were getting off the bus in front of the church, and I was walking up to the front door, I remember thinking to myself, which it threw me for a loop, because I was like, I'm going in here with an understanding of who God is, rather than have them tell me who he is. I'm going to go in here and see if anybody in this building has ever met the one that I just got to know.
Wow.
So it completely flipped the whole, like my whole
Script,
perspective. And it was, I went to church every Sunday because there were a lot of people in there that were good people.
Yeah.
And they were doing good things.
That's phenomenal. It is so phenomenal. That I'm speechless almost.
That's what I was going to say. I've never at a loss for words, and I don't know what to say right now.
That's very true.
Your story is so powerful and moving, bro.
Oh, it gets better.
Yeah. Yeah.
But wait.
Yeah, but wait, there's more. Wait. Yeah. So yeah, let's just keep going because it's very inspirational, where you go from here.
So living, eating expired food and all of that. After I had 6 months sober, you were allowed to work in this treatment center, this addiction treatment center. You could be a BHT or a behavioral health technician, as long as you had 6 months sober and you could get CPR, do your CPR thing. They would let you be a tech. And I got hired to work the graveyard shift, making beds, turning over the laundry for the admission, the people that were coming in the next day, for $12 an hour. I was excited. I was getting the paycheck again. And so ground level, basically, in the treatment field. And now I've spent the last 8.5 years keeping my end of the bargain up with God and helping other addicts and alcoholics and families. And I've done everything. I slowly climbed the ladder and did admissions and operations and business development and then program director. And I mean, I've literally gone from the very bottom all the way up. I don't know how that happened. I was telling my mom this morning that I think I have a little imposter syndrome because
you don't have imposter syndrome. You know why you don't have imposter syndrome? Because you walk the walk. Right. And you're able to have that empathy and you're able to understand what all the people that walk through that door have gone through.
It's
are going through.
It's so powerful. And this is what really fills my cup. I believe me, I'd much rather be doing this than staring at spreadsheets all day. But when I get the opportunity to, when a doctor calls me from a hospital or a social worker or a case manager calls me from the ER and says, we've got someone here, and, I get there in 20 minutes and I'm sitting in that hospital room with someone and, they're broken, and their wife or their loved one is in the room and they're in tears. And to be able to listen to them and hear their story and sort of be able to pluck from my library of personal experiences and be able to but to be able to share that. You can almost see the hope get transferred.
I was going to say it. You give them hope. Your hope. You walk through the door and God is using you as hope because
First of all, they're shocked. They're like, who are you and where did you come from?
Yeah.
And it's a toolbox. What I mean? I have a 30-year degree, a 30-year PhD in addiction.
The School of Hard Knocks in addiction.
But I like you were saying earlier, I would not change a thing because I feel like I go in there more armed than anybody.
Yeah. That's right.
And I think that's why I'm willing to sort of take on these new roles and sort of climb that ladder, because I feel it gives me, like, my experience gives me the confidence to do that.
Yeah.
I know I can step into these roles and I can, the place that I was just at, I was telling you beforehand that I was working at a facility that closed 3 weeks ago. But I was actually, as the program director, I had the opportunity to sit down and do individual therapy sessions with these clients, which I had never been able to do that or had the opportunity to do that before. I had opportunities to, fill in and do actually, group therapy with the clients and all of the stuff that I really had never done before, but I was confident enough that I could, that I would be able to do it because I was them. Yeah. I was the one in the group, I was the one that was getting those individual sessions from Patty, probably.
Yeah.
So I mean, I love what I do. I was telling you, when the place closed 3 weeks ago, I said, you know, I'm going to take 3 weeks off because I haven't had a vacation in about 5 years. And got an offer letter today for an amazing program that's got facilities all over the country, and everyone has different services, mental health, and so I'll be able to help even more people.
There's
So
something amazing about this. Everybody that's listening, you said you were going to take 3 weeks off,
to the day,
and to the day, you got an offer this morning on the 21st day.
exactly 1 year from moving to California.
That's phenomenal. I mean, that just, again,
So
it's
the
part of the
saga
story.
continues. I'm just gonna, people are all like, "Well, what are you gonna do next? Where do you see yourself in 5 years?" I don't know where I'm gonna be in 5 weeks.
Yeah.
It just keeps getting better. And when I lost this last job, when they closed, my mom was like, "What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do?" And I was like, "I know that God didn't bring me here to fail."
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I really like about this whole story is that the more you help people, the more you continue to heal. And I bet you don't even realize that.
No, I do. That's why I'm keeping my promise, because I don't think about booze. Do you know what I mean? I
Yeah.
don't. And I know that as long as I keep holding up my end of the bargain, that my life is going to be blessed. And not to get gaudy, but
Well, that's
I
good.
just know that as long as I do my part, I'll be okay.
And I think it's, what happens if you try to get out of line? You get brought right back to where it's your path.
I even made business cards while I didn't know what I was going to be doing. I made business cards of just for myself.
Yeah.
Just the certifications and everything that I have. I could just, if I didn't get a job for a while, I was just going to hand those out at the Subway sandwich place and be like, "Hey, you need help finding a treatment program?"
Matt, you could do that. I'm gonna be honest with you. You could do it.
I got a book to write real quick.
You got a book to write, but you could be a coach. You could do all of this. Not that I'm always trying to bring up ideas for you to do, because that's what I do in the past.
I got a lot on my plate.
Yeah, you got a lot on your plate, but I'm telling you, you've helped so many. You've helped me. You've helped my family.
How did you guys meet?
We met through Patty Muller.
Okay.
Yeah. Patty Muller introduced us. Patty was like, "You got to meet somebody. Somebody who has an amazing story and has gone through it." So Patty introduced us and all that, and that's how we got to know each other.
I love Patty, and my mom loves Patty, and my mom's never met Patty.
Yeah.
She just knows.
Patty's like one of the most amazing people that I think I've ever met.
I used to love bringing cookies to her office when she was there because, as a marketing person, I would go visit everybody's offices, and she was the one that would give me my free 30-minute therapy session every time I came by. So she got the good treats because I'd be balling in her office.
Yeah, that's right. When you remember Anthony McCauley, you remember Anthony and his story. Yeah. So Anthony, gosh, he's 6'3", 6'4", big guy. And the story there is Patty Muller got into his face and said, "What do you see in this mirror?" And held the mirror in front of his face. "What do you see in this mirror?" And he's like, "Well, I look good. I look good." And he was recovering from, addict at the time, or, trying to go through, he's an addict, drugs. And she's like, and then little Patty's maybe 5'2", something like that. She's tiny. And Patty gets in his face and she's like, "No, tell me what you really see. What do you really see? Tell me what," and broke the man down in tears. And he's a big guy, broke him down in tears. He grabs the mirror out of her hand, and throws it against the wall. And if you ask him, we talk about speaking, we talk about music, what's your walk-up song? His is, you like, Not What You Think. Oh, Man in the Mirror, but it's like, who sings Aerosmith or something like that. I can't remember what song it is.
Man in the Mirror?
Not Man in the Mirror, but it has to do with looking in a mirror, but it's not like Michael Jackson's Man in the Mirror, but it's that. And he said, that's the song I would come up to because of Patty Muller. Yeah. And it's an amazing story.
Yeah.
But she's an amazing woman. But yeah, you've helped my family. Everybody knows there's, that's really close to me, that with, my brother, like I said earlier, if you don't have a problem with addiction, I think the reason why I've never had a problem with addiction is because everything I've ever tried to do wrong backfired on me. First time I drank alcohol, I ended up in the hospital with a 0.39 alcohol level, going into slipping into a coma.
You're a
When they
rookie.
I'm a rookie, but I just tried to go straight after it is what I did. I'm like, let's go full
Apparently,
force.
3.9.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
high number.
Yeah, it is. And so I was in bad shape, but I think, it's one of those things where, yeah, anytime I ever tried to do something wrong, it backfired on me, and I'm not saying wrong, but that's what happened. So
Yeah.
yeah. So I never got there. But if you don't know somebody in addiction, or if you're not in addiction, you know somebody who is. And that was, alcoholism is something in my family. And, you know, you helped me with our brother. And unfortunately, we never could get through, not to throw my brother under the bus, but my brother lives in a facility now,
Yeah.
you know, and it's hard. It's hard.
Working in this field it's as challenging as it is rewarding because, on any given day, it's, the phone rings and it's either, I know you tried to help my son, but he passed away, and here's when the service is going to be. Or it's, Matthew, I just celebrated 5 years. I can't thank you enough. I still have your business card in my wallet and I carry it around to remind me, and it's like,
Yeah.
it's whatever I need that day. That's what the phone call is. It's
Isn't
like
that cool?
when I'm just like, I can't do this anymore. I quit. I'm going
Yeah.
back to banking, and then
Yeah, slap right back into
and
line.
then I get the text that somebody's celebrating a milestone and, that, thanking me for helping them.
It's funny how
so
that works, huh?
it's a God shot. That's what I
It
call
is. Yeah, I love that God shot. That's exactly what it is.
it. Yeah.
And I want to tell you this. Don't, the Clark Beatty story about me losing my friend. Yeah, you don't have to apologize ever about crying, because yesterday I was on a call, and a lot of people that are watching right now and making comments, and Andy knows, I was on a call yesterday, and like literally the lady I was talking to she starts going off on this tangent, and I am crying, because I'll always live with that, always live with everything and that's gone on. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Hell, I
that's just
broke down last week over a dog.
well, you did.
Live
Last
on
week's
air.
podcast we talked about. Yep, the last week's we were talking about dogs. That was the topic of the podcast is dogs and losing your dog and all that. And
So my point is, like Matt said, don't ever apologize.
yeah.
No,
Yeah.
what? I think it's just we're just trained to apologize for crying. But I remember one time I told my story in front of like over 200 people. I was at a podium up on a stage, like that whole thing, and just lost it to where I couldn't talk. And it was the God, please kill me or cure me moment.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh my God, like I started having like a panic attack in front of all of these people. And then I looked out and it was like half of the place was crying too.
That's right.
And I was like, okay,
Listen,
okay. You know what I mean? I'm crying because it's that kind of a moment. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's not just affecting me, it's affecting everybody in the room. So we're going to get through this together.
Yeah. But that's just it. If you come and watch me speak, and when I'm going to say when you come and speak on a Convene stage, that's part of your story.
Yeah.
And that's part, like when I tell my story, every time I start speaking, the first 10, 15 minutes are the Clark Beatty story. When I tell my story, I'm crying, and everybody in the audience is feeling it and crying. They're feeling it just as much, but that's how we connect. That's how we have that empathy and we connect and all that. And that's what you are doing, Matthew. You're able to do that with these patients, with these, that you're meeting in these hospitals. You're able to tell your story and say, hey, I've been there. I've walked where you are walking. I've been at the bottom, and truly you've been at the bottom, and I'm okay. And I made it through, and you can make it through. So you offer that hope. This like, I love this.
I feel super fortunate.
Yeah.
To be able to do what I do. I feel very, very grateful. I feel, it feels, I sleep very well at night.
Yeah.
It feels really, really good on a day-to-day basis to make a difference. When you have the opportunity to make a difference in someone's life, it's the best feeling ever.
Yeah. I can only imagine when it's like getting a testimonial and you get those texts or thank you for 5 years of sobriety.
Every one of them. I have like a library, a folder in my phone.
That's part of the book.
Yeah.
That's part of the book. You got to write a book. The book has got to get going.
Doc's got to help me though, because I don't even know where to start.
You got it, buddy.
Yeah.
I'm serious.
Yeah, really. It's phenomenal. You could do a podcast too with Doc too, and have guests. Don't listen to me because I'll have you do.
No,
No,
get
no, no.
fancy
Go
headphones.
on.
I
Go
need
on.
some headphones.
What? One more time.
I need some fancy headphones. Like
Well, that's what Doc teaches people. He's got a class. He's teaching people what
I'm
you
not,
need to podcast.
I don't want to do a podcast. I'll just be a guest on
Yeah.
yours
Well,
periodically.
you can be a regular guest, and you know what? Yeah, what would be cool too, if you have some people that you're close to that you know their story and they're willing to talk, is for you to come on with them, and we
I
do
would love that.
this again because
They don't even have to be here.
no, they can be anywhere in the whole. We're in
World.
Missouri. He's in St. Louis. You're in San Diego, and I'm in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. So it doesn't matter. We get on here and we
That
talk
would be
about it. So
cool.
yeah. So anytime, that is a open door invite. You have somebody that you think would be great. You say, "Hey, I'd like to come on. I have a guest that I'd like to bring on, and let's do this podcast together." That is an open door.
I would love that.
Uh,
I'll let you
yeah,
know.
yeah. But, just be a contributor. Once a month, once every 2 months, once every half a year. It does not matter. When you have an inspiring story that you think will lift somebody up and help somebody and give somebody hope, just please come in. It's your story is so inspiring. How you overcame, and I truly appreciate you coming on and telling it. Doc, what do you got to say?
I can't thank you enough for sharing your story. Very hit me here because I don't share the same story, but I do share addiction. So one more time to hit home, and for you to come up here and to share with everyone. I can't tell. I say this all the time. How talking about it heals.
Mm-hmm.
It's when we hold it in and we keep those barriers up that we can't heal that way. So thank you so much for sharing.
Absolutely, it
Yeah.
keeps me sober.
Yeah. Well, Matthew, I'll let you kind of talk. We just got a couple of minutes left, but I'll let you kind of just, if you were to tell somebody, I'll ask you this question. If you were to
I
tell
know
somebody,
this question.
yeah, because you're going to get this question, it's coming.
I do.
Yeah. I mean, if you were to tell the person or tell the family, well, one, as a family member, you can't force it. The person has to be ready. You and I have talked about that before.
Right.
You've given me that lesson. The person has to be ready. I can't enforce things to happen the way I wanted them to happen. So,
Right. So what's
go
the
ahead.
question?
Well, the question is, what do you tell somebody? Well, how do you look somebody in the eye and offer them the hope that they need?
So this is what I do, and it always works. It's worked so far. Addicts and alcoholics do have to be ready. So there's nothing I can tell them. But oftentimes they are being told by everybody around them, all of their loved ones, that they need help. And a lot of times they will be willing to do that for that person. I'm going to go to treatment because my wife, I don't want a divorce. I'm going to go to treatment because I don't want to lose my kids. I'm going to go to treatment so my parents don't cut me off. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. One of the things that I've always done, and it's very effective, is I hand them my card and I just say, you call me when you're ready. I don't want your mom to call me. I don't want your wife to call me. Just keep this and call me when you're ready and I'll help you. I swear, if it's 2 weeks, 6 months, 9 months later, the phone rings. That's why there's all these people walking around with my card in their wallet with sobriety time under their belts. And they always show me the card like I don't believe that they still have it.
Yeah.
As long as something about letting them know that it's their decision. And I don't know if this is,
Oh, it is. I think it is.
But if you put the ball in their hands, they're not expecting that as a treatment professional. They're expecting me to sit there and spend all this time convincing them that they have a problem and, going through this list of how's it affecting your finances and your family and your loved ones and all of this, No, I'm not going to say I'm not here to convince you that you need help.
Because how many times did you go to treatment?
Full stays, 14.
14 times. Mm-hmm. And it took you till you were ready.
I was teaching the groups.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Very inspiring.
But Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that part is inspiring, but it's got to be their decision.
Yeah. Well, you're right. Yeah.
For it to work.
Yeah.
1,000,000%.
Yeah. It
And
has to be
listen,
there.
I can't imagine being a parent and
Oh.
having to say no.
Well, I'll tell you what, I got 2 kids I'll give you.
Yeah. My Frenchie's enough. Thanks. Thank you guys. I want to thank you guys because this has been great and you guys have been wonderful. And I appreciate the opportunity to.
Well, I've been telling everybody I've been excited about this. So thanks for, sticking with me and getting on.
Of course.
And stick around. Don't go anywhere because once we
don't
wrap up.
like when we wrap up. Like some people
I'm out of here.
In and we go. He'll go to the cut music and we come back and we're like, where'd Matthew go?
Yes, we got Netflix paused.
Fine. Bye, Felicia.
All right, everybody. Well, we're at the end of the show. Always hit that donate button. Help Doc out if you don't mind. He does this out of the goodness of his heart. It's great. But Matthew, thank you so much. You have an open door. Please come back and please bring guests with you. Let's tell the story so we can help others do the same thing you've done. So inspiring. Thank you.
Goodbye, everybody.
Yeah.